Imagine being death. एक थिंग जिससे सब डरते या नफरत करते हैं एंड यूर द मोस्ट डायरेक्ट, ब्लंट but sarcastic and caring person out of all four horsemen. The name, occupation and personality don't suit, do they?
You are not welcome here.
Pity. I was starting to enjoy the atmosphere.
Darksiders II, the most beloved game in the Darksiders series, जो एक prequel sequel है to Darksiders, जिसमें the oldest horseman Death अपने ब्रदर वॉर की इनोसेंस प्रूव करने एंड ह्यूमैनिटी को रिवाइव करने के लिए डिफरेंट एंड मैजेस्टिक राइम्स के थ्रू गुजरता है, फाइटिंग कोलोसल एनिमीज एंड फेसिंग हिज पास्ट मिस्टेक्स, जिनके थ्रू प्लेयर्स को द फोर हॉर्समैन की ओरिजिन्स एंड रिग्रेट्स के बारे में पता चलता है. एंड नाउ इट इज अप टू डेथ कि वो उन रिग्रेट्स एंड मिस्टेक्स को फिक्स करता है और डज समथिंग दैट इज ऑल अबाउट ग्रेटर गुड. Darksiders was never about good story or writing. Darksiders काफी cool था because of its post-apocalyptic setting and stoic main character. Darksiders felt like a mid-2000s ultimate Marvel comic, which makes sense considering who is the creative lead behind the series. But moving forward, Darksiders अपने आप को उस cringe-worthy edginess and mean-spiritedness से differentiate करता है in every way possible. चाहे हम बात करें गेम की सेटिंग की जो now more high fantasy की तरफ लीन करती है with beautiful art direction with full of colors, art direction जो inspired है जो मैड के आर्ट से with much sharper and defined character designs, and characters जो more of a positive personality show करते हैं, with our lead character Death having a more calm demeanor and raspy voice thanks to Michael Wincott.
Horseman, do you ever doubt your future?
No.
Say, if you're headed in there, you mind doing something for me?
Yes, I mind. Aren't I doing enough already? Quiet.
Being in the world of Darksiders 2 is simply a much pleasant experience compared to its predecessor. It gives you an adventure vibe accompanied by a beautiful music by Jesper Kyd. There is one thing about Darksiders जो इसे almost every single video game series से differentiate करती है, which is its non-commitment to its genre, art and overall formula. Each game in the series different genres का blend है, suiting its main character. Darksiders एक GodOfWar like hack and slash था, with heavy, unga bunga, I'll kill you with my big ass sword energy. And it suits war very well. He's the kind of character जो attacks को dodge करने की जगह उन्हें counter करना prefer करेगा, showing his balls of steel. On the other hand, the pale rider Death is a much more agile character, and Visual Games ने गेम के हर एक एस्पेक्ट को कैरेक्टर के इस nimbleness के अराउंड डिजाइन किया था. While using the same base formula of hub-based dungeon exploration as the first game, Darksiders 2 इस सब-genre के ARPG aspects की तरफ lean करता है with a good amount of platforming thrown in. It's more Diablo-like with heavy emphasis on combat, loot and RPG mechanics with skill trees, builds and stats. Because of this ARPG focus, the combat system has to be good. And guess what? It is the most beloved combat system in the entire series. The combat layout in Darksiders 2 is same as the first game, with different buttons for primary and secondary attacks. There is no blocking in the game, so Death dodges and counter attacks पर rely करता है, which feels very natural considering how maneuverable he is in combat. Game में total 3 different weapon types and movesets हैं. Primary weapons, which are scythes, and secondary light and secondary heavy weapons, which are claws, gauntlets, arm blades and bucklers in light secondary, and hammer, axes, maces and glaives in secondary heavy. All 3 weapon types have a great and much expanded moveset, जिसमें Scythe एक good all-rounder weapon है similar to Chaos Eater, with great ground and aerial attacks जो crowd controlling के लिए काफ़ी useful हैं. Secondary Light game की most fast-paced weapons हैं with deadly fast strikes and combos with a lot of attacks. Out of light and heavy weapons, light weapons मेरी preferred class है because of how well it synergizes with the Scythe. Especially in aerial combat, and juggling enemies in the air for an extended period of time was way too fucking fun and reminded me a lot of DMC. Secondary heavy are also very useful depending on the situation. They are the damage dealers of the game, but personally मुझे उनकी lack of aerial combos and slow pace एक big negative लगा, which made me not want to use this weapon as much. The loot system is divided into 7 equipment, body and shoulder armor, boots, gloves, talisman, and primary and secondary weapons. इन सभी equipment के 5 rarity level हैं, कॉमन, अनकॉमन, रेयर, एपिक एंड लेजेंडरी, जो मैंने डिफरेंट पैसिव एंड एक्टिव बफ्स प्रोवाइड करते हैं, लाइक मोर HP, मोर माना टू यूज स्पेशल अटैक्स, लाइफ स्टील, क्रिटिकल डैमेज, क्रिटिकल चांस एंड डिफरेंट चार्ज अटैक्स फॉर वेपन्स. देयर इज अनदर रेयरिटी क्लास जो वेपन एक्सक्लूसिव है, विच इज पोजेस्ड. वेपन्स जिन्हें प्लेयर्स अपग्रेड कर सकते हैं बाय सैक्रिफाइसिंग अदर वेपन्स टू देम, एंड द प्लेयर्स कैन चूज अ पैसिव बफ फॉर ईच लेवल अप. Possessed weapons can be some of the most powerful weapons in the game because of their flexibility, since players इन्हें अपने build के according upgrade कर सकते हैं. And speaking of builds, there is a good amount of variety to it. Game में 2 different skill trees हैं, Harbinger and Neuromancer. Harbinger is the warrior build जिसमें players many passive and active buffs unlock करते हैं, all of them related to direct confrontation, like teleportation attack जो enemies को damage and players को life steal करने का chance देते हैं, with it having multiple variants providing different types of damage, or attack from Dat's Grim Reaper form, which is his devil trigger in the game. I didn't delve much into the Neuromancer skill tree, but as the name suggests, it's all about using the dad as your minions, जो both as damage dealer and distraction की तरह work करते हैं, depending on the summons. Based on the player's preferred skill tree, वो अपने equipment को भी इन trees के according align कर सकते हैं, providing even more buffs. So all of these systems combined Darksiders 2 को एक great ARPG बनाते हैं, which might not be as deep as genre juggernauts like Diablo, Path of Exile and Grim Dawn, but it doesn't need to be, since the gameplay and mechanics are unique enough and they are just great on their own. So the combat design in Darksiders 2 is top tier, but it is the contrast between combat, puzzles and platforming which makes it far superior for me compared to its predecessor. The platforming feels very smooth with maneuvers like wall running, climbing, holding and grappling being staple at most levels. While not being as in-depth and punishing as a standard platformer, ये segment gameplay को एक काफ़ी अच्छी pace provide करते हैं, breaking the combat with platforming and puzzles, so it doesn't overstay its welcome and become boring. It's clear what the developers' intentions were, and it's a very video game design, जिसे most AAA titles hide करने की कोशिश करते हैं, something I really appreciate Darksiders about. But sometimes, this kind of game design can also be a bean for the product, something the entire series suffers from. In terms of its levels, Darksiders 2 much more open है compared to its predecessor. Hub worlds are big with multiple smaller and bigger dungeons and some off-the-beaten-path exploration. But navigating this world can be a bit tedious since overall hub world exploration isn't that exciting, because most of the worlds are barren empty fields filled with respawning enemies. So traversing these hubs might be the most boring part of the game, but at least the accompanying visuals and especially the music does an excellent job at making these sections more bearable. Game literal 4 hub worlds हैं, Forge Lands, Kingdom of the Dead, Lost Light and Shadow's Edge. Each hub has a unique atmosphere जो उन्हें differentiate करता है, with all of them having multiple levels and locations. But after Forge Lands and Kingdom of the Dead, game mostly एक linear approach लेता है, with Lost Light and Shadowlands being the shortest hubs in the game. ये levels most likely visual games के लिए scope creep moments थे, because you can feel the budget cut while playing them. Still, both levels game में some of the most standout moments provide करते हैं, especially Lost Light, जिसमें for a short period of time game एक third person shooter में convert हो जाता है, which was also present in the first game, but this is better paced and placed in this one, accompanying a great level with amazing atmosphere. Other than this, there is a series-wide problem जो Darksiders 2 में most prevalent है, which is the rule of 3. Darksiders also had this issue, but Darksiders 2 suffers the most from this gameplay philosophy, जहाँ players को main quest progress करने के लिए mini objectives complete करने होते हैं, like finding 3 swords to complete a puzzle, complete 3 arena challenges, complete 3 mini dungeons to progress the story, collect 3 ingredients to complete a quest, kill 3 unique enemies in these 2 hub worlds to complete the quest, etc. So this is one thing जो Darksiders 2 को hurt करती है, turning a 20-hour game into a 30-hour game with no real benefit. Tell me where did you hurt that one before? But at least this rule of 3 gameplay design is better paced than the ending of Darksiders 3, because you throughout the game sprinkled hai and doesn't appear out of nowhere at the ending of the game. And the gameplay is so fucking good that most people won't even mind the grind. Darksiders 2 also had some DLCs which were released in the same rule of 3 format. ये DLCs हैं Argul's Tomb, the Abyssal Forge and the Demon Lord Belial. ये DLCs 3 new level introduce करते हैं with multiple dungeons, weapons and armors. But overall they are more Darksiders 2 for better or worse. Other than these, game में एक combat arena है called the Crucible, which works like Bloody Palace from DMC, जहाँ players को 1-1 enemy waves को हराना होता है for different rewards, and it can be grinded mid-campaign for better equipment, though it's mostly there for new game plus playthrough. The game is also filled with great spectacles and boss fights, जो easily series highlights हैं and puts a nice bow on the overall package. And this was Darksiders 2. एक game जो majority of the things change and improve करता है from its predecessors in successful ways, which was showcased in its reviews. But great reviews doesn't always mean great success. For THQ, Darksiders 2 failed to meet sales expectations and the company had to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy due to their recent failures. Following this, Vigil Games was also shut down in January 2013, leaving the Darksiders franchise in limbo for quite some time. Vigil Games split it into 2 teams, in which Joe Mad opened a new studio titled Airship Syndicate, जिसमें उन्होंने many games develop किए like Battle Chasers based on one of Joe Mad's comics. On the other side, shortly after their closure, THQ was bought by Nordic Games, a subsidiary of multimedia conglomerate Embracer Group, जिन्होंने THQ की IPs को preserve करा and changed their name to THQ Nordic. Visual Games and Darksiders co-creator David Adams started a new story under THQ Nordic named Gunfire Games, जिन्होंने immediately Darksiders की next mainline entry पे work start किया, which follows the most unpredictable and reach-filled horseman out of all. But like always, that is a story for another time. Until then, just go and play Darksiders 2. It's an amazing hack and slash, it's an amazing game, it's an amazing ARPG, and it's an amazing story with a great character. Just go and play it. It's a great game. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll meet you guys next time. See ya!